Inside this room, all of my dreams become realities, and some of my realities become dreams.
What in the wide, wide world of sports is going on here? Alive! It's alive! It's alive!
You are listening to The Wilder Ride, getting wilder by the minute. Here are your hosts, Alan Sanders and Walt Murray.
Hey everyone, welcome to The Wilder Ride, getting wilder by the minute. This is a new kind of show for us. We call it the Wilder Ride Listeners Lounge, where we get a chance to bring all of our listeners in and do something a little different. Rather than dive into the movies of Gene Wilder 1 minute at a time, we're actually going to dive into some of the guest interviews that we've wanted to do since we started this podcast. One of the things I think Walt and I have both enjoyed is meeting people, whether it's local folks joining our show, whether it's folks that are some semi-famous, some people in certain industries, or even getting some stars to join our show. So let me introduce my co-host in crime, Walt Murray. Thank you for being here, buddy.
Hey, I'm glad to be here. And shouldn't it be the Wilder Ride Listeners Lounge?
Yeah, it's the Wilder Ride Listeners
The Wilder
Lounge.
Ride After Hours.
It's the ride on the seas of cheese. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, we 2 weeks ago, we announced that we would start doing this weekly format, kind of do something different because our regular season 3 kind of fell apart. I think we both felt it early on. There was a lot going on. We already covered that in a previous episode. But at the same time, it's almost like a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, it really is. And I'm kind of having fun talking about some other stuff and not having to be beholden to a real hard and fast format for a few weeks. And also, you know, like you said, we've wanted to talk to some friends and some other folks potentially on the show and have a little bit of variety. So this just kind of all fell into place, gave us a good opportunity to do that.
Yeah, and I think we have a guest coming up in just a few minutes that is perfect for the inaugural launch, because if this hits the iceberg like the Titanic did, at least we're going to go down with somebody we don't mind laughing with.
And somebody who we can blame.
And you know what? That's an even better excuse. I like that. Yeah, we'll be introducing our guest in just a few minutes. He's in the lounge. He's in the waiting room lounge. He's in the green room. BK, Barry King from BK on the Air, radio host, podcast, now a podcaster, go figure, with his show, has joined us on both seasons 1 and 2 as what did you call him, Walt? A walking IMDb catalog?
Yes, I think that is what I called him on the air.
Yes, he is a walking IMDb. You know, a lot of us, like you and me, we got involved with things like sports, and we watched movies and TV, but we also read books, and then we read comic books, but we got involved with other things. BK just watched TV. That was it. You know, just TV and movies.
That's pretty much it. And I think he went to the arcade every once in a while, but...
Oh, he did do that. Now, we did that too. So, see, that's why we get along, because we overlapped enough of our lives. But then you and I start talking about things like, you know, batting averages or touchdowns or winning percentages, and he just goes,
Yeah, what garbage the Falcons drafted this year, you know, things like that.
Hey, you know what? When it comes to the Falcons draft, I'll tell you this. The last couple of years, every time these prognosticators of smart go, yeah, what are you doing drafting them? And then they're all of a sudden Pro Bowlers, A-list, you know, it's a crapshoot. And you know what? That's remember where did oh my God, the quarterback with Green Bay for the longest time. God, what's his name?
Brett Favre.
Brett Favre. Remember how far back he was picked? He was like a B-list backup quarterback.
Yeah, but a lot of us at the time were going, no, don't trade him. And they trade him and he goes and wins like 8 Super Bowls. So
yeah. He was with the Falcons, by the way, if y'all didn't know that. So
yeah. But he may have languished in Atlanta with no Super Bowls. So, you know, what do we know?
True. You know, he may have, you know what? This environment does tend to crush the best in people. So maybe it's best we let him go and let him fly, be free. All right. Well, before we bring BK in, it's been a week since you and I last recorded. We had a chance to really get a sense of the show with just the two of us. So this is going to be new, adding a third layer. What's been happening with you?
Well, you know, just the usual stuff, trying to keep my feet under me. We still are not coming out of this quarantine as fast as I thought we would. But it seems like we're moving in the right direction in most of the country. And so, you know, we're looking at still some of those movies that we were talking about last week are staying on schedule. I was looking at that earlier today. And it doesn't look like there's been any movement off those dates that we talked about last week. So that's kind of a relief.
Well, coming up in a little bit, we're going to do a segment where we're talking about things coming up, what we're watching or what we're doing. I have also some news items that we think might be interesting that we'll all kind of just throw at each other cold. We never discuss ahead of time the items we've covered or looked at, but I've got one that is movie related that I think will appeal to all of us if BK wants to hang with that last segment.
Well, good. Neither of mine have anything to do with movies, just stupidity.
Excellent. Well, for me, the crazy thing that's been going on in the last 72 hours. So we've got 6 dogs, right? One of them is I'm now affectionately going to call him our tank. If you've ever played games like World of Warcraft or others where you sort of have different classes, you've got like the damage class that does a lot of damage, but they can't take a lot of damage. You've got healers to try to keep everybody alive. And then you have a tank. And the tank is designed to go in there and attract everybody and beat up on them. So that way, while all the bad guys are distracted trying to beat up on the tank, hopefully he survives long enough for everybody that does damage to, wear down the bad guys. You ever play any kind of games like that?
I did.
So I'm calling Riley, who's our yellow lab, I'm calling him our tank. Because this dumbass, this retarded, lovable Hodor of dogs decided while he was in our room, hey, there's a brand new box of Advil sitting on the counter. I wonder if I should chew that up and eat as many as possible. This dog of ours, and I make fun now only because I get to, because he's still alive. So I don't want to make it like one of those things where people are like, oh my God, no, he's still alive. But check this out. I'm on the air. It's a Saturday, so we're still isolated. We can't let guests in, including BK, who's not allowed to do his show in the studio. He has to do it remotely. I get a text message. Is there any way you can leave and meet me at the vet? There's an emergency. I'm like, are you kidding? I can't leave. Well, BK's there. I'm like, no, BK is there in voice only. He's not live. He's Skyped in right now. I can't leave. Well, Riley ate maybe 100, close to 200 Advil. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm thinking organ shut down. I'm thinking he's going to start bleeding out of every, opening in his body as everything starts to just turn to water in his body. All right. So we'll just make this quick. Come to find out, when he decided for whatever reason to chew the bottle, it wasn't like he was trying to get at the pills themselves. He was chewing the outside of it, and he ended up crunching so many of them to powder while he was crushing the bottle that by the time the top actually popped off, he was still mostly just crunching the bottle. There was so much Advil powder and dust ground into our comforter and our sheets because he was kind of slobbering and he was just so happy. And he obviously ingested some, but my wife was quick thinking, looked up quickly how much peroxide to pour down his throat to induce vomiting. He initially didn't, poured just a little bit more just in case. And then all of a sudden he retched, everything twice in the backyard. She gets him in the car. She's texting me, angry texting, and I'm on the air. And she's like, I'm going now without you. And I'm like, well, there's nothing I can do. Just let me know. Gets Riley, halfway there. And all of a sudden, she puts a blanket. She's thinking like, this is better than me. Thinks, I'm going to put a blanket in the back seat just in case. He moves the blanket out of the way so that way he can properly barf on the leather seats, right? Not on the blanket.
Perfect.
He's like, oh, this is a fine blanket. We wouldn't want to soil that. Look at these nice leather seats. Just vomits everywhere.
That's great.
Gets to the vet. He starts to freak out, gets out of his leash. They have to chase him around the parking lot. I mean, this is like something out of a bad movie, okay? By the way, did you ever see the movie Marley and Me?
Yes.
Okay, Riley. We could have named him Marley, okay? This is who we have in our house, right?
Perfect.
This is my lovable 85-pound lap dog who still thinks he's a puppy. So they finally get him, and because of the COVID-19, my wife can go get her hair done, can go get her nails done, can go into Ingles, can go into Target, can go into Walmart, can go into any of these merchants where there's thousands of people shopping, but not allowed inside in case the dog dies. We couldn't have that because, we want to stay locked down. So she was pissed about that. She's texting me. I'm like, I don't know what you want me to do. After an hour, they had given Riley a shot, made him throw up some more. They said, well, based on whether or not he ingested a lot, and if we caught it in time, you've got 2 things that could happen. He's either going to live or he's going to die.
Okay.
That was it. We could tell that, hey, congratulations, you're either going to have a child that lives or a child that dies. Welcome to parenthood or doghood.
Perfect.
So anyway, they did say, look, the first 24 hours, you're going to kind of know. If he goes into distress, here's the number to the local emergency animal hospital. If you have to put him down in Rome, you have to drive all the way there, whatever. So we managed to battle, and it was weird because he was so tired. You're like, okay, are you tired because you just threw everything up and went through this ordeal, or are you dying? And so we, as dog owners, we were like freaked out for the first about 12 to 18 hours. He looked okay. We went to bed, and all of a sudden, 4 o'clock in the morning, I hear click, click, click of his nails. He gets down off the bed. I'm like, oh, Jesus, please. He just had to go pee. Huh? But I'm like, now I'm like sit wide awake from 4 o'clock in the morning until I normally wake up, which is at 5. So I'm just sitting there for an hour. He gets through the first 24 hours. We think, okay, he's going to survive. Then all of a sudden I get a text message the next day. I think there's a problem. I'm like, what? He just threw this up, and I get a picture on my phone. It looks like black pudding on the ground. I'm like, oh. And I was like, oh, you know what? This is our poop eater.
Oh, God.
So now we're like, okay, did he eat poop and throw that up, or is he bleeding internally and did he throw that up? Come to find out, he just threw up the poop that he ate. Next thing you know, it's been 72 hours and he's fine. But that's what I've been dealing with.
That sounds awesome. You know, we had a dog do the same thing. He only ate like 15 of them, and you'd have thought that it was the greatest emergency in the world. We ended up running the dog back and forth between the overnight vet and the regular vet 4 days in a row, pumped his stomach, charcoal treatment, the whole 9 yards. And it never even fazed him.
You know, and here's the thing I was thinking this whole time, because you're telling me that, BK's telling me that, I had another friend from the UK telling me, yeah, they did something similar. He's going to have charcoal. He's going to be having, like, he's going to need an IV drip. He's going to have to be watched. Chances are you may have to leave him for 3 days. You might have to then give him a bunch of shit for like the next 5 to 6 days. And I'm like, nope, they just said, go home. He either lives or he dies. I'm like, now here's the good part. He is living, and it only cost me $100.
Yeah,
so
see,
I guess I should be thankful.
Mine cost a good bit more than that. Thankfully, we had forgotten, and we're still paying for dog insurance for him. So we got a good bit of
dog insurance.
Yeah, I'd forgotten when we adopted him. It was free dog insurance for a year, but then we had to pay as like $8 a month. So it was just hitting my credit card, and I just didn't even think about it. I saw an $8 charge on there for some kind of insurance, and I just thought it was something on our phones or something. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, wait, that's pet insurance. Meant to cancel it, and then dummy ate the bottle of Advil.
So they went overkill with you. They just basically said, we don't know. He may fucking die.
Yeah. Well,
go enjoy his last meal. By the way, his last meal needs to be boiled chicken and rice.
Oh,
I'm like,
gosh.
oh, okay. But anyways, you know what? He's my tank. He took all this damage. He's the goofball, stupid ass, but he's got all the armor. He's got all the weapons, and he can take a crap load of damage, and he still keeps on going. So,
well, and that's how Rascal is. He chews on aluminum foil. Anything he can get his mouth on, he eats. And so we were like, well, he probably just has a stomach of iron, and nothing's going to affect him.
Well, that's it. You wanna see if our guest is ready? We can bring BK on.
I guess we can bring that knucklehead in here.
Let's go ahead and welcome to our Wilder Ride Listeners Lounge, the one and only BK from BK on the Air. Barry King joining us. BK, welcome to our show.
Well, thanks, guys. It's good to be back on the Wilder Ride. It seems like we're chasing horses and looking for a load of dimes last time I was here, right?
You got it. You know what minutes we're working on today, right? You're prepared?
Yeah. Is it the minutes after the credits?
Exactly.
These minutes are easy. They have absolutely nothing to do with any movie whatsoever. So you're all prepared.
Well, it's fun. I'd be prepared if it had something to do with a movie too. I'm just that way. But I appreciate you guys having me on. I appreciate being on. Wow, back with Young Frankenstein and Blazing Saddles and everything we've done about Gene Wilder supposedly and hopefully the upcoming Silver Street that will be coming up down the road.
We'll see. We talked about it in our episode that we dropped a couple of weeks back that 2020 has not played nice with many people for various different reasons. And same thing for us. And not just because of COVID-19, there's been other things. So we had already, actually, Walt and I had been kicking around this idea of creating sort of a side cast. You know how they make these side episodes of things like Rogue One, not technically a sequel to Star Wars. It's like a side story to Star Wars. So this is like our side podcast to the Wilder Ride. So that's why we're calling it the Listeners Lounge, a chance for listeners to kick back, relax, and hear us interview some folks who we've met through the show, or other folks that we've known in other pursuits, or maybe soon to celebs that we have yet to meet and other people. So you get to be guest number 1 of the official Listeners Lounge.
Oh, no pressure here. Wow. Nobody to follow. That's good. We could also be a side quill, too, kind of like the movie Soldier with Kurt Russell was to Blade Runner. You know, it's a side quill. They make up words.
Yeah, not a sequel, a side quill. It's set in the same universe, but has absolutely nothing to do with the other movie.
Well, I'm glad to be here, guys.
Well, Walt, let's go ahead and just set the stage for BK, because when we have a guest, and part of this is we're working our way through our format, we want to make this about really the guest.
Yes, we do.
Thanks for the long pause.
And which is really odd.
Would you get off of Facebook?
I just want to give you something to edit.
I was in shock that it's all going to be about me.
Yeah, I was just catching a quick nap. So,
mofo.
Well, and BK and I have known each other for quite a while through our other friend, Commander Clark, who I worked with at IBM, and he introduced me to BK, I don't know, what, 5 or 6 years ago?
Probably, yeah.
When you were at another radio station that doesn't exist anymore, I guess, and you had me as a guest on your show there after my my appearance in Star Trek. So it's kind of funny how our path weaves here.
It's so many degrees of separation. Yeah,
that's right. That's right. So, well, BK, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do and what your show is all about?
Well, wow, you can hear me I'm going to have a show on Saturdays from 10 a.m. till noon Eastern on WBHF Radio. WBHFradio.org is the website if you want to stream it or download the TuneIn app. But years ago, it's very similar to the radio show that I'd always done at a previous radio station. I take 2 hours, I don't know, every Saturday, and I try to think of things that are going on with movies and television that are very prevalent at the time and recent. But I also like to go back and delve into the days of Schoolhouse Rock and tin lunchboxes and cartoons and Saturday mornings waking up, not wanting to get up to go to school, but you'd get up every Saturday morning to watch cartoons. It's very easy to get up to do that.
Cartoons, Life cereal.
Right. Have your bowl of cereal, watching it, and just delve back and reach into the dustbins of your mind and shake all the dust off of what you know that is in your head, and I throw it out there to the front of your brain and make you remember it, and you go, oh, wow. I remember that, but I didn't remember it until this guy on the radio just brought it up. That's really cool. So that's what I do on Saturdays, and I have a fantastic time doing it because it's fun for me, and I want to make it fun for everyone else. And we throw in some comedy bits and some funny stuff and some historical facts in there, too, just to keep everyone entertained for about 2 hours on Saturday. That's kind of what I do.
You know what's been great about your show, especially right now, is it's such a great distraction from anything going on. I mean, normally, regardless in general everyday life, it's a great distraction because it is about going back and having those memories from being a kid to movies that may be out right now or we're looking forward to. And then it cuts right back to TV shows or music and on this day in history. But right now, it is even more important. And it's one of those shows that I think a lot of people are gravitating toward because it allows them to remember a time when we weren't dealing with anxiety and fear and stress nonstop.
Well, streaming services are at a height right now. Podcasts I'm sure being listened to, and shows of that nature that are recorded and people are catching up on all of that. A lot of people have a lot of time right now to catch up on all of that stuff. Netflix, podcasts that we just talked about, this podcast here, all of them out there. And what's good about that is every Saturday when I do the show now, I've actually kind of transformed it and augmented it and given it bionic parts and kind of did some re-editing and tomfoolery on it and jazzed it up and made it into a podcast. So I turned each show now into a podcast episode at different platforms where you can hear it now as a podcast. So I've kind of entered the podcast world with the BK Escape Pod now.
You know what's amazing? Because you and I have been chatting about this for a while, and I get what your argument had been for a bit. Some of the things you talk about are movies that just came out. You're reviewing a movie that just came out, and you're thinking, well, it's kind of topical. Is anybody going to want to listen to that episode 3 months later or 6 months later? I think, honestly, why not put it out there as a podcast? Because you know what? I may not get around to seeing Blade Runner 2049 until 2 or 3 years later. I'd love to see what you thought about it.
Well, you're right. And I was thinking about why would I not do it? Because we talk about other stuff and have fun and joke around, and there's a lot of goofy entertainment quality there, wherever anybody believes it or not. And go ahead and put it out there as a podcast, because some podcasts kind of talk about sort of what's going on at the time. So I don't know why I put that restriction on it, thinking that I shouldn't do it. But I did go ahead and do it, and it's available. You can go out there, and the 3 places you can hear my show, if you're interested, is the 3 places is Anchor, Podbean, and SoundCloud. That's the 3 places that you can actually go out there and hear the show if you missed it. Anchor, I can put several episodes up there so you can catch up on a lot from the past there. So that's the 3 platforms that I've started at least getting it out there with, and it seems to be working out pretty well.
Now, the thing about SoundCloud, though, that is sort of real time. Well, it's a real time listening. You can listen whenever, but that one refreshes every week. So if you go to SoundCloud, it's only the most recent episode. SoundCloud
and Podbean, yes, those are the 2 that will refresh and only have the newest episode up there. But the Anchor will be the one. Anchor has merged with Spotify now, so it's Anchor and Spotify together. So if you click on Anchor and listen to the show, you can either choose Anchor and listen to it, or Spotify if you have that app, or you're a member of that app. So many ways to hear the show. If you miss it, if you hear it live on Saturday, you didn't hear all of it, because it's going to be different when it's on the podcast.
Well, one of the things I've always liked about your show, BK, is that you have a good mix, not just of, news of what's coming out or a review of a current movie, but you'll go back and play the trailer from Jaws, or you'll go back and play a commercial for Stretch Armstrong. And It's like, oh my gosh, I remember that, Stretch Armstrong, that's awesome. And so you do a good job of incorporating, stuff from our childhood and picking up that nostalgia to bringing in people like James Install, who we have now booked as a guest for hopefully next week.
Right, Geek to Me Radio. Yeah, great guy.
Yes, yeah, and he and you've brought him on, several times to review movies and talk about that. Then you've got the Channel Star Wars folks, and you have Pat McCormick, who I love Pat's segment on there, and get you to talk about that for just a second. But you do a great job of mixing up the nostalgic past and stuff going on now, and then what's coming soon.
I'll try to mix. I try to go from anywhere to from the 50s all the way up till today. I mean, I'll also throw in a trailer for a Bond movie, the new Bond films when they come out, or the Marvel Comics movies, and even as late as the late 80s, some of the things from the 80s. But there's just some things that I remember. I feel so passionate about this stuff that it's hard for me not to let it out somewhere. And that outlet on Saturday for 2 hours allows me to do that. And for me, it maybe work for somebody, but it's just a lot of fun for me, because I grew up on television and movies. That's a lot of people grew up different ways.
You were on television?
No, I'm not. Yeah, I was on top of the television. I used to sit on it. I sat on top of this big TV we had in the living room. I was on it.
Well, when we all grew up, it was furniture.
That's right. Big cabinet. Yeah. Big 10-ton cabinet television.
All right. Well, let's do this. Let's go step in the, let's get in the DeLorean and get up to 88 miles per hour. And let's go in the Wayback Machine. When did you think, hey, being on the air and just talking about the things I love might actually be something I get to do as an actual career, or at least a side career?
Well, I can tell you, I thought that I had, when I was a kid, I got my very first Panasonic tape recorder. It was a cassette recorder, big red one, very, very weird looking. If kids saw it today, they'd wonder what the heck it is. But it was red, and it had these big wide buttons, and I would record myself doing kind of a mock show, even back when I was in fifth grade of elementary school. And there was just something about it back then, thinking, I know, I have to be, I hear these guys on this radio, and I have a little AM transistor radio, and I used to go out at night and tune in to these stations that I could pick up far away on AM transistor. And I go, that's what I'd really love to be. That would be fun to be on the radio, turn that switch, and know that somebody out there might be listening to something that you're actually saying. They're interested in what you're saying. So when I was a kid, I don't know whether it was just foolishness of myself or just immaturity of myself thinking I'm going to be on the radio one day. I just know it. I just have a feeling. Little did I know it would take many decades later for it to happen, but it did happen. And if you try hard enough and believe in yourself and do it, something could happen or may happen for you in the future. So I've kind of always, it's not a cop-out answer to say that I've always known. I just always had the feeling ever since I was a kid that I wanted to do it so bad that maybe one day I would be able to do it.
So take us through then your station hopping, because there had to be the first station and whether or not that worked out well. I mean, even major on-air talk personalities, the biggest talk show personalities, all have stories about how they got fired because they wanted to do something they liked and the station manager said no. So what was your quick kind of station hopping and how you eventually got to where you are on WBHF?
Yeah, that was the first one I had. I got fired from the very first one, which was totally my fault. Little station in Northeast Alabama, a little town called Center, Alabama, where I grew up. I'm still in high school. It's a freshman in high school, and I got this job at WAGC AM 1560 to just basically run the cartboard back in the day. You know, pop in with commercials. It's all pretty much automated with computers now, with computer programs. But back then we had to use cart machines with tapes. Switch it out. If you ever watch WKRP in Cincinnati, you'll see exactly what that technology looks like. Just sitting there doing that, occasionally popping on the air to announce the time and the temperature. And next up is Johnny and the Crusaders with "I Love Jesus" and stuff like that. So it was an old gospel station with country music and twangy sounding old gospel music. But every now and then, for some reason, something in me wanted to sneak something in when I turned that mic on and say something about something like, "Hey, if you ever get a chance at night, we're not on the air 24 hours a day, but at night you can tune in and watch The Incredible Hulk on CBS. It was a great episode last night." I'd just sneak that in for about 15, 20 seconds and tell everybody what was on television and what I watched. And after about 2 or 3 times doing that, the manager of the station, he didn't really like that too much because it didn't really fit the format, and told me to stop. And I said, "Okay, I'll stop." And I didn't stop. So
I can see BK right now. Coming up, we got bad boy Leroy Brown. You know who a bad boy is? Can you imagine what happens when you tick off Bill Baxley? Or what do you call it? God, what's his name? Bill Bixby.
Bill Baxley.
Bill Bixby. Can you imagine when you tick him off? Oh my God.
I do not want to tick off Bill Baxley.
Yeah, you don't want to tick off Bill Baxley either.
He was the guy that was initially lined up for the part, but he died in a truck accident.
That's William Baxley. It's Bill to his friends. Yeah.
But I could just see that. So coming up, we got bad Leroy Brown. But hey, did you check out that episode last night? The Incredible Hulk. He's a bad boy.
Well, BK, I love the fact that, the station manager comes in and says, "Don't do this anymore." Okay, I won't do it anymore. So I kept on doing it.
So I was grooming myself to be a defiant FM DJ right then, not following any orders at all. So, and I did, I wanted to say booger on the air too, but I didn't think I could get away with that either. So.
Well, you were like the format for Tom Petty's song "The Last DJ."
Right.
If you'd stayed in the business, you'd be in Mexico, playing overnight shift,
right?
Some station, drinking tequila. And,
hey, all you truckers out there, give me a big old 10-4. What's going on, good buddies?
You're listening to BK Overnight.
Like you're listening to the last BK appearance at WAGC.
Used to be competing with Art Bell.
Well, I learned quick to that also taught me if you're told to do something, do it, or you might get thrown off the air. And he was nice about it. He wasn't really mean or anything. He goes, "Yeah, we can't." He actually told me, he goes, "I think you'd be more fitting somewhere else. This little country podunk station is just so small and podunk."
Hey, I wasn't even in radio, and I've had that conversation before. So
hey,
yeah.
Don't feel too
Look,
bad.
we love you. You just don't fit in here.
You'd fit in a lot better on that CB radio out in the truck. Go talk on it out there. Yeah, that'd be much better.
I'm sure you'll fit in somewhere.
Okay, so after your stint in Center, Alabama, where did you go next, or how long of a haul? Because sometimes in this business, you can go years between gigs.
Oh, yes. Well, not long after that, before I actually moved over here to the Georgia area that I'm in now, I worked for a little while at WAAX Wax Radio in Gadsden.
Sometimes it's
Alabama.
wax on, and sometimes
station.
it's wax off.
It's wax off. It's a slick radio station. I'm telling you right now.
Look, they
were great. They
were highly polished.
They were gloss to that station like you wouldn't believe. They were a bigger station. Just to tell you how big they were at the time, they actually played syndicated Paul Harvey over there.
Wow.
That was something else to me. I really liked that. And Paul Harvey was another one of my influences because I loved Paul Harvey. I listened to him all the time. But there at WAAX, I wasn't actually on the air. I did just part-time production with them. I'd come in and do voiceovers for commercials and record some spots and actually do a couple of voices here and there for them whenever they would need it. And it was very limited, but I did work with them on a very on and off basis, which was fun. And then we'll flash forward many years later, after just kind of freelancing and recording things for different places. I think Walt may remember our station, WCHK in Canton, was on the air for many years before it went off the air. I did a little work there for a while for some nice folks. And then I think it turned into locally here in the North Georgia. It turned into a station called Sunny 100. I think you remember that too at one point. They had FM for a while. But then I moved
was
on.
Was that the one that played like lake music and stuff
They did.
that?
It was like a light rock pop type thing. Music, the little sunshine was their logo.
And for some reason, conversations about the Incredible Hulk didn't fit in there either.
No, it was just commercials there. I could do a commercial for them and just sneak it in. Hey, so try Tractor Supply Company. You'll love it. And by the way, watch Star Trek. It's really fun. That didn't work there. So, but then it did flash forward a few years later to 2013. I got a chance to go on the air and be the nighttime guy at WYXC in Cartersville, Georgia, which was fun. Working from 9 p.m. to midnight on Saturday nights over there. And then a few years after that I had it was the same format I do now at WBHF, BK on the air. I was BK on the radio there. It was just a name change. And there, it's pretty much the same thing as I did now. Talked about nostalgic stuff and geeky retro things and played bits and had a little more freedom and leeway at night going up till midnight. We got a little more, I think, get away with more risque stuff over there than we do now. But it was fun. Unfortunately, that station had a lot of internal troubles and eventually went off the air and went dark and has turned into a transformer. And the whole thing has been transformed into a car museum now. The building was torn down and it transformed into a car museum over there now. So that's right. I do know that the station moved to South Atlanta. They are back on the air now with a different call letter, but the people who bought that station has it now on the air down in Morrow, south of Atlanta, now on AM 1250, and they play Christian music or something. So fun times there. I had nothing but despite all the trouble behind the scenes and with the management and everything there and the owners, it was fantastic. I had fun no matter what. And now it brings us up to today, where I am on the air today.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And your show has actually had not a lot of changes, but you've had to sort of move things around. You had a different co-host with you, or a different side voice that you had for a while, and it sometimes grows and expands depending on who you invite in the studio. But it has evolved still over these last 4 or 5 years.
It has, but the core of the show, all the subjects and the things I like to cover and talk about, that base, the foundation, I guess, of the show itself has not changed. It's all the same thing, and the subjects that I still like to talk about, including with all the retro nostalgia geekiness. I also try to find the most outrageously weird and stupid stories for a segment that we can talk about too. Stuff that you wouldn't believe would be true, but we do talk about it. But WBHF has been very good to me. AM 1450, and they acquired a 100.3 FM signal not too long ago, a couple of years ago. So with streaming, that's the best part of this. Is I'm on an AM and FM station that's local, but when you stream your broadcast and your show either on your website and on the app, the TuneIn app, or any type of platform on computers, and using the streaming services that are out there and on the planet to cover the whole world, you can really get out a lot better now than you could back in the old days when you were just broadcasting from a radio station. And that's what I like about being able to stream, because I get emails and messages from people all over the world. I mean, it gives me, I can't believe that someone in South America or Scotland or Alaska or even Germany is listening to my show at one time or another at one point, thanks to that. And it's a kick. It's really fun.
Well, and it's interesting as a radio listener all these years. When I was in high school, I used to deliver pizza, and I had just an AM station.
Well, that's
in my
almost
car.
exactly the same kind of job.
Yeah, it really is. And you move
Lots
from
of
pizza place to
toppings, yes.
pizza place. They give you the "you don't belong here" speech.
Right.
Hopefully, your next job will be better. Quit talking about the Incredible
appreciate
Hulk.
you wanting to eat what you want to eat, but that's not what the customer ordered.
That's
okay?
right.
You
That's
have
right.
toppings.
You
have
similar.
topics.
Well, and it was
Topics,
funny
toppings.
because only having an AM radio in the car, I listened to a lot of talk radio or the Atlanta Braves. And it really depended on what road you were on, because the signal would drop in and out.
Right.
But
right.
I've kind of watched that transition from the outside as a fan of talk radio and of radio in general. And going from, just AM, back in the 80s, Well, you had AM, FM, but a lot of cars just had AM radios. Then FM really becoming dominant with, and in the Atlanta area, we listened to 96 Rock, which was just a great station.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then now the transition to where you can listen to like KTLA from Los Angeles or, whatever radio station in Manila in the Philippines, if you want to, on your phone, sitting anywhere in the world. So
right.
It really is amazing. And it allows you, instead of having to go, okay, what are the people within 2 miles of my radio station wanting to hear, to being able to say, okay, I can reach an audience that's worldwide that all has the same interests as me. So I think that makes it a lot more fun as a listener.
Yes, and we've certainly come a long way from the days of when I would go out on top of the mountain at my grandparents' house over on Lookout Mountain in Alabama, which was a very high elevation, and getting out there in the middle of the woods knowing I'm up there and taking that AM transistor radio I've got with a 9-volt battery in it and turning it on and tuning it in and trying to listen to different stations and writing down in my little notebook. Oh, I heard a guy talking from Washington State tonight. Yeah. Oh, I'll talk to a guy talking from Detroit, Michigan tonight, or somewhere else. We've come a long way from there, and we can go even further back from me with the transistor. Go even further back to like the early 30s when they'd have the big wooden AM radio in the living rooms, like the Waltons would have to tune in and listen to something. But we've gone a long way from all of that to today, to our handheld devices, wherever there may be, your phone, your tablet, and just tuning in something using an app that can do. You can find an app that does almost anything nowadays. It's changed a lot, and a lot of the radio stations have figured that out. And I don't know why AM radio still hangs around, but it's still there. No one seems to be getting rid of their AM radio signals. Maybe some of them are, but a lot of AM radio stations are still broadcasting on AM radio still.
But you know why that is, and there's always that discussion every 10 or 15 years. There's that, well, is it going to go away? What does it serve? We've got the internet now, and then you have either a tornado or a hurricane or some kind of here in Atlanta, we had the bridge collapse, I-85, and all of a sudden everyone's tuning into, regardless of the podcast or the international show or whatever, all of a sudden like, oh crap, I got to listen to something local. That local element is always what saves AM radio.
Right. And it's still there. I don't really see it or FM radio going away anytime soon. I know there's streaming. I know there's iTunes, and there's so many other ways to listen to music, listen to broadcast material. And I hope part of me hope it never really goes anywhere, because the fact that I could probably go and sit, I could probably on a commercial, I can run out of the station when I'm broadcasting on Saturday morning. I can go outside and take my little AM radio and turn it on and hear the station that I'm on a little radio that I had since I was in first grade. Now my voice is coming across that radio from many years ago. It just makes me feel kind of cool. I like that I can be able to do that.
There is something to be said, too, as well. When you discover a passion, something you love, it doesn't really matter where you are. We get the joy of being able to be worldwide, but there's still the joy of doing what you love.
And the podcast is included in that. You're doing the Wilder Ride. We all love Gene Wilder movies. All three of us have appeared on other podcasts about different movies, different genres, different subjects that people are talking about on podcasts. And it's all because it's very simple, the way to figure it out. It's all because we love and we're crazy about all of that. We have a big passion for that, and that's exactly why we do it. You're right.
Okay, as we start to wind down the interview portion here, I do have a question that I want to kind of at least this piece of who is BK, where did he come from, and where is he going? We're at the where are you going piece. What do you see? I mean, if you could rub your crystal ball and have it come to life, where are you 5 years from now or 3 years from now? Well, what's the plan for BK on the air?
Well, I don't know per se if I have a plan. Sometimes plans unfold on their own. I'm going to keep doing what I do, and I'm going to keep looking at different options and keeping everything on the table. And a lot of people get their start really small. A lot of your big, successful syndicated radio talk show hosts, name a name. There's so many of them. Got humble beginnings and small starts. A lot of people started small and stayed small their entire life and passed on and never got really big, but they were still happy doing whatever they were doing. I'm going to answer that by saying it'd be great to know that I've got 20 to 30 million people listening to me with either a syndication thing or a gigantic flamethrower radio station, or even something like Sirius XM or anything, some of the bigger platforms out there to use. But if it comes down to me doing exactly what I'm doing now on the station that I'm doing it, or another station or whatever, I know now that with streaming, a lot of people can hear me that couldn't hear me before. So I'm happy where I am. But anything comes down the line that I can bite at the hook, like a fish looking at a nice lure in the water and go, oh, that looks nice. Let's grab that and see if I can get caught by somebody bigger. I am never closed-minded or shut down from the possibility of moving on to other and better things. But I just love what I'm doing wherever I'm doing it.
Well, we got one last question for you, BK. And how do you see social media playing into what you do?
Oh, social media for me plays a big part of what I do because I'm on Facebook. I'm only on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Those are the three main ones that I only see any reason for me to be on at this point. But it plays a big role because to me, I use social media. If you'll pardon the term, I use it like a whore. I use it like crazy.
His words, ladies and gentlemen, his words.
Now, he can bleep that one out or not. I don't know if that's allowed on the show or not. We get a bleep on that. But and when I say that is I use it because it's there and it's free. That's what I mean. I put out and you guys are part of my social media and you see what I put out. I'm constantly promoting myself.
Yeah, you are a whore. You do put out all the time.
I put out because it's free. Why not? It's absolutely free.
BK's open for business.
That's right.
And one thing I do like about your social media presence is that you do interact with your listeners. And
oh yes,
I think that gives people a good opportunity to go and say, "Hey man, I really like that you played that $6 Million Man clip," or that, what do you think about this movie or whatever. Or for Eric, one of your listeners, to be able to insult you after the show.
Right. Hey, like my dad used to say, good press or bad press, just keep me in the press. I don't care what it is, just keep my name alive. But yeah, I love interacting with people. Facebook, all this. I've never had a really bad experience on social media to this day. Knock wood, because I tend to not fuel that behavior, and I tend to kind of look the other way and go, okay, hey, this person's in a really bad mood right now. I'm not going to take that bait and let that guy go with it. There's no way. So I use it for 100% positive. I think it's fun interaction and it's great.
So how do people find you, BK?
Well, they could find me probably just searching for the name BK on the Air, all one word, BK on the Air. You can look at Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. I do, like I say, on SoundCloud, the app, Anchor, and Podbean. And they can also go to the radio station where I broadcast live from every Saturday, WBHFradio.org. You can start there, click the link at the radio station for the on-air bios that are on there, and you see my big ugly face staring at you with a description of who I am, along with a few other folks that we're familiar with, wink, wink. And you can start there and find out. It'll take you to other places that I'm located. So that's me all over.
Excellent. Now, normally when we get a guest on, we move on to some of the other things that we want to do, and we always give the guest the option, if you want to hang out with us and dive into some of the news we're looking at today, as well as we wrap always talking about what we're watching or looking forward to watching, and any kind of recommendations, whether it's books, podcasts. You want to hang out and do that?
Well, let me check. Is the COVID thing still in place?
Yeah, at the recording time, yeah, it's still out there.
Okay. Well, I have my Kong Reign of Skull Island coffee cup full of coffee here, so I'm good to go for the entire run.
Well, good deal. Walt, I know the last time we did this, we had the two different news stories. Turned out we had one that we both shared. Turned out we as we did because this is a part where we do this entirely cold. Walt does not share any of his news show prep with me, and nor do I. So that way we can find out what kind of moods we're in and what kind of attracted us to a particular news item. But Walt, do you want to go first? Do you want to have something you want to start off with?
I do, and I can bet right now that we do not have the same articles, because I dug deep. I went deep on the internet. It took me like 1 or 2 minutes to find both of these. So
this is not just a B-side. This is a deep cut.
Dude, this is like deep, because it starts off Florida man.
Well, that's sad. And we know what's coming next.
That's fish in a barrel, isn't it? Florida man and woman arrested for shooting flare gun at 2 people that were serving legal papers.
Did you say a flare gun?
You got it, BK. Monroe County, Florida. A man was arrested Friday night after he shot a flare gun multiple times at 2 people who were trying to serve civil process legal papers. The 79-year-old woman, Carol Harwood, was also arrested for resisting arrest along with William Nash, 79, according to Monroe County deputies. Fortunately, no injuries were reported. However, alcohol was involved.
Oh, no kidding. Really?
Great.
Yes.
Let's say, as opposed to the flare, they weren't too bright.
They are not bright. And
Bright.
I wish I could show their pictures on this because
Well, did you say one was 79? How old was the woman?
75.
Oh my God.
You
can't serve us papers. Light it, Martha.
Was someone shot with a flare gun?
No, they were shot at.
Shot
And
at,
apparently,
okay.
it was 2 process servers, so I can relate to this. I have had guns pulled on me 3 times in my life. 2 times were serving process on people. So,
Never a flare gun, though.
never a flare gun,
Okay,
oddly. So, but just to kind of cut to the chase with these 2 knuckleheads, both of them were arrested. Both of them confessed that they had had quite a lot of alcohol.
Well, good thing they weren't hit with the flare gun being full of alcohol. That would have been a whole nother thing.
That would have been a whole nother problem.
Yeah, but it sounds like by it, their breath might have been able to take care of that.
Yes. So thank you, Monroe County, Florida, for that one.
We always appreciate the Florida man stories. They are always sure to entertain.
Yes, they are.
Do you remember when they were on the boat in Jaws and they were all comparing their stories in the bottom of the boat? They were all like comparing who's got the better scar and all of that or whatever.
Yes.
Remember that? Well, your Florida man story, you know what? I got that beat.
I got that
It
beat.
should be good.
I got one I can share with you guys if you want to hear this one.
Yes, absolutely.
A guy steals $21 million of lunar rocks to have sex on the moon. You didn't hear about that?
No, I have not heard that one.
You know what? That sounds like a recycled BK on the air flash the audience segment.
It might be a reappearing one on the air if I can do it. You got to hear about
Here's
this.
the thing. It's worth 21 some million, but how big really were those rocks? like 12 of them?
This is I think there's 68. No, there's 69 of them. That's how many there were.
I just got to put them underneath the mattress
don't-
and say, we'll just pretend.
It says we don't.
What the hell's wrong with your mattress? It's lumpy.
That's right. It's Arthur Ben Menrich, who also wrote The Accidental Network, which turned out into the movie Social Network. He published a book called Sex on the Moon, The Amazing Story Behind the Most Audacious Heist in History. In brief, a few years ago, Thad Roberts, this is just breaking now, but it happened a few years ago. Thad Roberts, who was in love with his girlfriend of 3 weeks, decided to show her a grand romantic gesture by stealing moon rocks so they could jam the rocks under their motel room mattress and have sex on the moon. Now, because Roberts interned at NASA, this is how he could do it, because he was an intern at NASA. He didn't have to go too far for his moon rocks. He had to circumvent NASA's security system that was a heist worthy of Ocean's 11. Of course, things went wrong for our sex knot when he decided to sell the rocks on the internet. Now, the guy who wrote the book says he wasn't really a criminal. He didn't think through the after effects. He said, I asked him dozens of times over the years, how did you think you were going to get away with this? And he said it wasn't part of the thought process. He only thought of it as a college prank, and he thought, even if I do get caught, what's the worst they can do to me? Well, you want to hear what they did to him?
Should be good.
What they did was send him to a federal prison for 7.5 years. That's what they did. So this guy wanted to have sex on the moon with his girlfriend, and I guess he did. So I don't know if when they display these rocks again, will they have to add to the description of the rocks that they've actually had? Hey, these rocks are real special now. There's something have happened to them at one point. So I thought that was
Well, it
crazy.
suddenly turns into the ending of the Pirates of the Caribbean. He can only see his the woman he loves once every 7 years.
That's right. Watch your cornhole there, Thad.
That is a crazy story. I thought that was crazy. Why would you? I mean, that's something you think about and go, hey, wouldn't it be nice to have sex on the moon with these rocks? You can think about it and joke about it, but don't do it. Please don't do it.
There you go. That's your public service announcement from BK
Yeah.
on the air, heard live on the Wilder Ride
That's right.
Listeners
It'd be
Lounge.
like Jackie Gleason. You can think about it, but don't do it.
Well, I've got one here that, you know how people do these internet challenges, the cinnamon challenge. It got all the way crazy to a Tide Pod challenge.
I've never done any of those, by the way. I'm not going to do those.
But you know of them, right?
And the penny on the electrical outlet. Yeah, all those stupid things.
Brilliant.
So apparently somebody, in order to try to prove how stupid people are, said, well, why not do a pee in your pants and film it challenge? Did you hear about this?
Oh my gosh.
Okay, I might have gotten a bad connection here. Did you say pee in your pants challenge?
Yes. The first video appeared on TikTok when Liam Weimer filmed himself saying, "Pee your pants challenge," before appearing to wet himself as a gray patch appears on his shorts. And then there's this disturbing sound of liquid hitting the floor. Now, Liam said he was surprised. Now, you guys are not going to be surprised, but he was surprised that the trend caught on. In fact, he couldn't believe people were doing it because he thought he would show, well, how stupid do you have to be to do this? Apparently, he's got a lot of takers to his challenge, as he has seen hundreds of videos, his own being watched over 300,000 times.
Oh my gosh.
And people were blaming the coronavirus lockdown as being bored and figuring, what the heck, I'll take the pee in my pants challenge too.
So this wasn't like the ALS challenge, ice bucket challenge for charity. This was just something stupid that he just wanted to do.
Right. He said he's a 19-year-old from Kansas. He says he hopes to be a TV writer one day. And he said, quote, "I started the challenge as a joke. I'm surprised that the challenge actually became a trend. I did it as a parody of all of the other challenges that have gone viral on the internet in an attempt to show how pointless they are, only to find out people are basically stupid." I add that. He didn't say that. But he said, "I'm surprised to see people on the internet will actually pee themselves if you call it a challenge and then add a hashtag." So note to self, just because you see it on the internet doesn't mean you have to do it.
So you wonder, is he the more stupid one for doing it, or is everyone else stupid for just following along and doing it?
You know the crazy thing about the story? The number of pictures of people that shared and like they're trying to now out-pee each other. I'm like, okay, I'm done. I'm done.
What? People are idiots.
Yeah. Individuals are smart. People are stupid.
Pee yourself challenge. I got to write that down for Saturday.
You need me to send you the link?
Yeah, you need to send me that link.
I got to write this down for things not to do.
Oh, no, that would make for a great Flash the Audience segment.
Yes, it would.
Like a midget at a urinal, I was going to have to keep on my toes.
Oh, my
Nicely.
goodness.
Well played, sir. Well played. Walt, what do you got next?
Oh, you don't even want to know. So this one comes to us from California, which is the Florida of the West. Man arrested for climbing under tanker truck filled with wine and begins drinking.
He's like Barney from The Simpsons.
The first part surprises me, but the second part doesn't.
Well, and as I read this, you're going to be like, dude, you buried the lead.
Wait a second. So there's a better lead than what you just read?
It just keeps on getting more and more Modesto.
It's the story that keeps on giving.
It's a snowball. Oh, no.
So this one comes to us out of Modesto, California. And a man in California got in trouble with the law because of wine and a sandwich. California Highway Patrol. I'm telling you, this one just gets better. California Highway Patrol in Modesto said Gabriel Moreno pulled next to a tanker truck that was hauling wine. He motioned to the truck driver like something was wrong, the police said. When they pulled over, Moreno ran from his car wearing only his underwear, ran to the back of the trailer.
Yes.
Oh, he wore the right costume.
We're not even there yet, guys. We're not even there yet. So the truck pulls over. Little did the driver know, Moreno not only ran to the back of the trailer, but climbed and attached a ladder to the truck, and the truck driver drove away. So, part two. The driver couldn't see exactly what Moreno was doing, but noticed the gauge on the dashboard that showed that the truck was losing weight. So after about a mile, he pulled over. When the driver did stop, Moreno jumped down, laid under the wine pouring from the truck, and started doing wine angels under the truck and drinking as much as he possibly could.
Wine angels.
Wine angels.
Snow angels.
Look at me. I'm a pretty angel.
So if you had snow mixed with that, you could have a wine daiquiri angel with snow cone.
And there may have been some other kind of snow mixed with this. He then ran away with bystanders calling after after him saying that they saw a man running away covered in blood, but it was really wine. The incident was all caught on dash cam. Moreno was arrested, charged with felony vandalism and misdemeanor driving on a suspended license. But Moreno's story doesn't end there. And here we go, folks. He was quickly released due to the new rule governing arrests and the coronavirus pandemic. The release came too quickly for him, apparently. Moreno was upset because he didn't get his jailhouse sandwich. He tried to steal a truck from a neighboring business just so he could be rearrested and get a meal.
Holy cow.
Again, because of coronavirus rules, Moreno was arrested, charged, and released to help jail overcrowding.
Who says you can't find the silver lining in the COVID virus?
Well, here's the sad part.
Oh, there's another part.
All this mayhem, yes. Because of all this mayhem, the trucking company reports they lost between 1,000 and 5,000 bottles of wine.
Wow. That's a lot of wine. That's a lot of wine.
And no report whether he's had a sandwich.
Well,
still wait. I want my $2 instead of that. It's like, I want my ham sandwich.
So there's our multi-layered stupidity from Modesto, California.
That is amazing. There were 5 incidences there while you were reading that story where you said, wait, there's more. But wait, there's more.
I'm telling you, it was the story that just kept on giving.
Hey, we'll be back to tell you more later.
That was the Mr. Microphone and Ginsu knife story of the day.
Rolled into one.
Yeah. Wow. And that was just one that was like, all that just to get a free sandwich from the jail.
Some of you sometimes you can't believe any of this stuff is true, but you're like, well, no, it was. I mean, there's an arrest going on, and it really happened. It just boggles our mind.
That's from the Modesto Bee, which is a Cox News organization. I mean, this is like real news.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Nope, that's a real story. Well, I have one that can maybe pull us back around, and it has a great way, I think, of tying in BK's particular brand of entertainment and nostalgia and show. And Walt, I know you will like this too. I don't know if you saw this, but you know, some states are beginning to already relax their rules, some more than others. We live in the state of Georgia that has already said, hey, movie theaters, as long as you sort of kind of do the every other row, keep, people that are not family units, apart, you can actually start getting back into watching movies. Well, here's the problem. There are really no movies to watch. So with some states preparing, Hollywood studios are trying to give people something to see. They're including things like perhaps, and you guys check this out, Jaws or Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone as a way of enticing an audience back into the theater. Older titles like these, studios are planning to take as little as 30% of ticket revenue, and that some of these movies they're thinking about saying, let's do a nostalgic throwback. See if you guys can remember. When's the last time you spent between $2 and $5 on a movie ticket?
1982, maybe.
Yeah, there we go.
It's been a while.
Well, guess what? They're talking about making that the ticket price just to try to get an audience to get back into the theater and get back into watching movies. So some theaters could be as little as $2 to $5 a ticket. In addition to Jaws, Comcast Corporation's Universal Pictures is offering up titles including Back to the Future, Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. AT&T Incorporated Warner Brothers is making a host of titles available, including all 8 Harry Potter movies, which, BK, you talked about recently on your show.
We did, yes.
Lionsgate Entertainment is offering some of its most popular films, including the 4 Hunger Games movies. So here's the thing. Would you be willing to go see a movie right now if your local theater opened, if they were showing some of these old classics that these chains and these studios own?
Well, that's an unfair question to ask me, because even when there's no pandemic problem and no movies to see, I'm always up for doing that. I've checked out flashbackcinema.net. A lot of those places that offer that, TNT, Turner Classic Movies, does that a lot and ties in with a lot of Ticketmaster and whatnot to bring out older films in theaters that you may have never even seen in the theater before. And I have done that from time to time. But the answer for me is yes, I most certainly will go see some older films in the theater. And now to know that they're going to be at a probably nostalgic discounted price, even more so. Yes.
Yeah. that hooked me the minute I saw like, oh, $2 a ticket. I might even be able to afford popcorn at that price.
But just barely,
no
yeah.
kidding.
You're right. That's where they'll make their money, is the concessions, for sure. Yes, a big thumbs up. That's a great idea.
What about you, Walt? Would you go?
Oh, absolutely. And, over the last couple of years, I've seen a bunch of stuff. I saw the Batman 66. I saw Top Gun. I saw Jaws. I saw Raiders. I've seen all these movies that are all throwbacks. Getting to see them at a third of the price, I'm in.
Same here. I saw Jaws on its anniversary release at the Fabulous Fox Theater in downtown Atlanta. I saw Smokey and the Bandit on one of its anniversary releases. I saw Alien from 1979 on a Halloween anniversary release in theaters. It's amazing to watch these movies on the big screen when they get all blown up in front of your face again, real close, and with such clarity that you can, I don't care how good your DPI is on your screen at home, but when you have that giant film projected up on the screen, you will see detail and things that you really have never seen before watching these films at home. It's true.
So on a positive note, we had a positive COVID story about what happens when a guy chases his sandwich and gets an entire truck full of wine. And now you can get nostalgic price theater tickets and go see a movie that maybe you haven't seen since you were a kid, or maybe have never seen. I have never seen Jaws in a movie theater. I would love to go do that.
It would be great. It's great.
Even with all of the, the what do you call the different services they've got? They've got the Fathom Events is one of them, and the other ones like you said, BK.
Yeah, you got
even with all
Flashback
those,
Cinema.
I don't seem to ever time it to where I'm available when it's there for the 1 or 2 days only that they're going to show it. But I would, in a heartbeat, if they had Jaws running for a couple of weeks, I might go see it more than once.
Yeah, I would. It's worth it to see it on the screen.
And it's fun to see things you may have missed, and it's fun to watch when we did see Jaws in the Fabulous Fox Theater, which is a beautiful venue anyway in Atlanta. We were watching it, and having seen Jaws, I can't tell you how many times I've seen Jaws. It's just countless. And I've been looking around, and this theater is almost sold out with Jaws playing on its anniversary. I'm like, and I'm wondering at all the reactions of everyone, with the head popping, Bid Gardner's head popping out of the bottom of the boat, some of the jump parts, some of the more intense parts that are part of Jaws. I would hear these gasps and these screams and these reactions, and I'm like, some of these people are just still reacting to it to this day, but I'm wondering how many young people in here are seeing it for the first time on the big screen. It was really a kick.
Well, I'll tell you, when they have that scene sitting inside the boat and you hear the USS Indianapolis story, every single time I am just mesmerized by it. So that is such a great movie. It's timeless. I will see it when I'm 90 years old on the big screen.
You mentioned that scene, and I talked about it not that long ago because I saw a headline that said the most harrowing scene in the entire film is one where you don't see one shark at all.
That's right.
And it is. It's art on screen. It's just wonderful. So, hey, while we're talking screen and we're starting to wind this down, a lot of us are watching some of the small screen. So we'll go around the horn here quickly as we start to give our recommendations for the week, things that maybe give someone maybe it's a nostalgic throwback to go out and try, or maybe it's something brand new. Walt, you want to take a quick swing at what you would recommend for sort of like your pick for the week?
There are actually two things that I'll recommend real quick. I ended up with the 1 year free subscription to Apple TV. So I got to see for the first time a show called Barry, which is from HBO.
Ooh.
I'm blown away.
Good stuff.
When I first started watching it, I texted you and you said, it's not what you think it is. And I was like, shut up, Alan. You don't know what you're talking about.
And I also said, you'll love it.
Yeah. And at the end of the first episode, I was hooked. I think I even sent you a text and said, okay, I'm in. And at the end of season 1, I was like, holy crap, this is amazing. So
just imagine a hitman who discovers community theater taught by the Fonz.
Yes. Oh, and Henry Winkler in this is absolutely amazing. And the guy who plays Barry is Bill Hader from Saturday Night Live and so many other places. He is fantastic. And I'm used to him being a comedian. I thought it was just a straight comedy. There is some incredible dramatic acting. It's really well written. So I highly, highly recommend that. And I'm going to plow through the rest of, season 2. It's, I think, 7 episodes. The other one I would recommend, also from Apple TV, Jennifer Aniston, a host of other people. It's called The Morning Show, and it is not my typical kind of show. It's kind of a drama, soap opera-ish kind of thing. But again, very well written. It's a great story. Gets into kind of the power behind, the news and TV and how things work, and really, really entertaining. And Jennifer Aniston, again, we're used to her as a comedic actress. Really fantastic. And the guy, I'm kicking myself, the guy who played Michael Scott on The Office, Steve Carell. Steve Carell's the other actor on there, and he is fantastic as well. Both of them in very dramatic roles.
Wow. So there you go. A couple of recommended streaming choices. BK, anything you want to recommend for the week? Something you might have, or like I said, a throwback?
Well, I've got one throwback that I'll start with. I got one movie and one a couple of streaming TV things that I want to mention. The first one is I began to go further back and to try to search out films that I'd heard of for years but never saw. And there are films that this one here is not well known to a lot of people at all. It was a British adventure war film that came out in 1979, and I doubt either one of you guys have even heard of this, even with this cast that it's got. It's a movie called Escape to Athena. It stars Roger Moore, Telly Savalas, David Niven, Stephanie Powers, Richard Roundtree, Sonny Bono, and Elliot Gould. Now, there's a big starring cast for you right there. It's set during the Second World War on a German-occupied Greek island, and it's an action-adventure film. It's also listed in the film lists of having the third most exciting motorcycle chase ever filmed, is this small film that you guys probably have never heard of. Have either one of you heard of that film?
I've heard of it, but I don't know if I've ever seen it.
It's Escape to Athena. It was directed by George P. Cosmatos. It's the guy that took over the directorial reins on Tombstone when Kevin Jarre quit. It's one of his early films. So it's
very cool.
Fantastic. It got panned by a lot of critics, but if you want to look for something that maybe since during this lockdown and look for some things that are older or fell by the wayside or films you never heard of and go, oh, maybe I'll give that one a try instead of this Gone with the Wind and all this other stuff that people have heard of and watched over and over again. Escape to Athena. It's a pretty adventurous World War II film with a stellar cast. The other thing I want to mention is on the CW Seed channel, they are airing episodes of Constantine. That was a DC comic show about the master. They call him the master of the dark arts. He's kind of like, think of him as Marvel's Doctor Strange, only he wears a trench coat and he only goes after evil demons and stuff like that to dispatch them. It only lasted, I think, maybe not even a season on NBC when it was out. But I heard about it and I started watching this. I binge watched the entire show like in a couple of days because there was only one season. Constantine. They made a film with Keanu Reeves about the same character, but this television show is a lot more true to the character of DC Comics, and it is a fantastic show. I can't believe it. It's like, wow, there's another great show that the networks cancel. But if they don't have the ratings and there's no money coming in, there's not anything that can save a show from being canceled.
Right. Well, I'll check it out because I actually liked the Keanu Reeves flick. I started collecting the reboot of Constantine on DC when I used to collect comic books, and really was intrigued by this idea of a sort of a modern day demon hunter who, because he had at one point in time either went to hell and was brought back, and now he can have a sensitivity to it, is able to track them and find them in our real world. Such a cool premise of the paranormal, and yet he's kind of that gray character, but he's still a good guy.
Matt Ryan, he's a fantastic actor playing Constantine, British actor. And also one more, if you haven't seen the Disney Gallery show on Disney Plus now, it's called Disney Gallery. It's going to be an ongoing show, I believe. The first episode concentrates on The Mandalorian. It's a documentary making of. They interview all the directors from the Mandalorian television series. It is a fantastic documentary. Disney Gallery, The Mandalorian. Check that out.
Excellent. Well, I'm going to give two throwbacks simply because they were mentioned in that article. And I said it many, many, many times. If there's only one or two movies I get to take with me, it's going to be really tough because it's either The Lord of the Rings or it's Jaws, because those are always back and forth as which movie could I imagine watching for the rest of my life and not getting bored. So if you haven't had a chance, because they've got a Blu-ray out now and they're going to talk about putting a 4K version out here pretty soon.
In
for
October,
you 4K
that's right,
HD. Yeah. Check out Jaws, and really, it is a magnificent. It's just, even if you're only mildly interested in film and filmmaking, It is actually a study on how to do it right. It is fantastic. And then I would say the Back to the Future trilogy. It's a family favorite. My girls, 20 years removed, when we introduced that movie to them, they loved it every bit as much as we did. It holds up very well. Great acting, great storytelling. Michael J. Fox, Christopher Lloyd, the classic time machine. And what I love about it is it ends up in the Old West in episode 3. It's just a great trilogy that really can be watched as one binged movie because they really work back to back to back as one big movie.
And now it's a musical.
Hey, get up to 88.
That's right.
So there we go. All right. What about anything quickly as we're going around? Anything that you want to mention book-wise or podcast-wise, Walt?
Yeah, I was going to mention, I stumbled across a great podcast today, and I ended up listening to all 3 episodes that are out there. And it is, it's hosted by Garrett Wang, and I can't remember the other guy's name, but they were 2 of the actors from Star Trek Voyager. And it's called the Delta Flyers. And they go through episode by episode through the Voyager series. So they've released 3 episodes, and you get a lot of the behind the scenes and how did you get on the show and how did we make this decision? And it's a really, really great podcast. It's one of those that's not overly produced. It's those 2 guys talking about the plot, talking about, the other stuff going on. And you even had a quick discussion on how the uniforms got messed up and how Garrett Wang ended up with used boots. And he's like, why am I getting used boots? And he looked down and it said, property of B. Steiner. So he had B. Spiner. He had Brent Spiner's boots. So it had just been taken from one set to the other for Star Trek. And so it's really a kind of a fascinating thing. And being a big Star Trek fan, I'm really having a ball with that so far.
Cool. BK, any podcasts you're listening to or can recommend?
Well, I do. I don't think I get to listen to as many as you guys do. I think I'm actually more than I do listen to. But there's one podcast group that have a lot of different. They cover a lot of different movies that's called Growler Media. If you go to Growler Media and check it out, they've got one called Joe versus the Minutes, Joe versus the Volcano. They've done Escape from New York. They've done Flash Gordon, the 1980 movie Flash Gordon, Beauty and the Beast, Neverending Story, which is called the Neverending Story Minute. These guys have done a lot of movies that I'm familiar with, and I actually appeared on the Flash Gordon Minute with them and the Escape from New York Minute, which was fantastic to do both of those films and talk about them 1 minute at a time, certain sections of the film that I got to talk to, which was fun. So Growler Media has a lot of offerings when it comes to podcasts, and they're very entertaining, very, very fun to listen to.
And they're really great folks. I really like them a lot.
Well, the cool thing is we know one of the voices on the Joe versus the Minute podcast. That's she goes by on Twitter One Steel Sister, but it's Tierney who joined us on Blazing Saddles to chat about Madeline Kahn and some of the characters and the strong female character of Madeline Kahn. But Tierney Steele is the one of the voices, and she's great because she did the MASH Minute as well, which was the MASH movie. Well worth checking out. I'm going to give a couple of those movies by minutes shout outs just quickly. That format is how we got into doing our show initially. That's how our seasons 1 and 2 are set up. But the guys that really, really gave us a hand, and certainly we've become very good friends with online. We've got Jim O'Kane, who keeps kind of track of things. He's sort of the patriarch of the Movies by Minutes community. He's got several out there, including the Rocketeer Minute, where they actually got the lead actor got so interested in hearing about this podcast, breaking down the movie, that he actually was on several episodes with them. They're back to doing the Apollo 13 Minute right now. They've got NASA astronauts. They've got mission control people. I mean, Jim is just one of those guys who is just connected with the industry. He gets so many cool guests on his show. So check out any of the podcasts by Jim O'Kane. The guys from the Indiana Jones Minute, they are so funny. You've got Tom, you've got Jerry, and you've got Pete. Those guys are great. And then our good buddies up in New York, New Jersey area, the Rocky Minute. You will not laugh any harder than if you just get any minutes of Rocky 1 or Rocky 2. Just some great guys. So check out the Rocky Minute. So those are the ones I'm going to say. If you haven't had a chance to listen and you love those kinds of movies, to hear people break them down 1 minute of the movie at a time can be a lot of fun.
And I was thinking about the Wilder Ride. just a couple of nights ago because I happened to catch some old Walton reruns of the Waltons on one of the channels that was streaming, and you guys had him on one of the Wilder Rides as a guest. I saw Burton Gilliam on a Walton episode as I was watching the show.
Did he still have that grin?
He did. He was playing the boss. Get this. He was playing the boss of a woodworking shop where one of the Waltons' relatives works, and the relative that was worked there was played by Richard Hatch from Battlestar Galactica, was in the scene with him. So yeah, good old Burton was on the Waltons the other night.
There we go. So some things for you guys to check out this week while we work on the next week's worth of content. BK, it has been so cool to have you join us for our, quote, official inaugural episode of the Wilder Ride Listeners Lounge. We're looking forward to having lots and lots of guests this year, one episode a week, as long as we can maintain our schedule. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to bring the folks that we all know or have stumbled across thanks to the internet. We talked earlier about how great it is to get that radio signal out there. The terrestrial radio can go around the world. Well, you can make friendships around the world as well. Social media can be used for good as well as bad. It's like a hammer. So folks, don't bludgeon people on your social media. Just be good to one another. Don't feed the trolls. And who knows the friends you could make just by being out there and getting online.
Being a troll is such a waste of time and effort. It really is.
Guys, I got to have a hobby.
But you don't have to dress as a troll when you do it. You don't have to do that.
This is my gnome outfit. Get it straight.
Gnomes now.
While we're online right now recording this, Walt is the only one with the camera on. Al and I are. I haven't been to had my haircut in like 6 weeks. There's no way I'm turning my camera on right now.
The fact that Walt hasn't posted on Facebook during this recording is a testament to his focus.
I've only got one screen up. That's the problem.
That's the problem. Walt, anything else you want to add? How do people get in touch with us or
I was going to say
us?
the best way to find us is going to be at www.thewilderride.com. You can find all of our stuff there, including old shows, our links to Patreon, which is free right now until the end of the COVID quarantine. You can get all of our shows there. Also, find us on any podcatcher. You will definitely want to go listen to that old Burton Gilliam interview. That man is hilarious. He is one of my favorite people in the world now. Also, we have done a variety of movies there, and all of our coverage of Young Frankenstein and Blazing Saddles is there. And finally, the other thing you're going to want to do is go to facebook.com/The Wilder Ride, hit follow, and then hit join the listeners group. And you'll just be asked 3 quick questions to make sure you're not a robot of some kind. And you can join our listeners group, which is a lot of fun. There's a lot going on there, a lot of things being posted and talked about. No politics, no craziness, no nastiness, just a lot of fun. So you definitely want to be a part of that.
I have a lot of fun in the listener group. It's great. Yeah.
Yeah. Until next week, everybody, we'll be back with more. But just keep in mind that whatever podcast you're listening to, this one or others, ones we recommend, if you like it, retweet it, share the episodes, share the love. It's not like radio in that one sense. We're not all competing for market share. Podcasters do tend to be good to one another. They help one another. They answer questions. We've gotten a lot of folks who did support us at the very beginning, and we try to do the same for others. So whatever you're doing on social media, give a love, give a thumbs up, give a share, give a like, give a retweet. And if you want, even give us a review. There's so many other things that can bring you down. We're all about kind of making everybody happy, laughing, and bringing you up.
Absolutely. And hey, thank you so much for listening. We know everybody's got a busy life going, and all the quarantine junk doesn't help. So we really appreciate y'all taking the time to listen.
I want you guys to know that I pretended to be a robot, and the Wilder Ride listener group let me join anyway.
Well, we deciphered your 101100 into an actual answer to the question.
That's right. Woo!
All right, guys, come on back next week for another wild adventure here on the Wilder Ride in the Listeners Lounge.
Shouldn't it be?
Yeah, sorry. The Wilder Ride Listeners Lounge. Sailing a sea of cheddar cheese.
Do you still include all the goofy bits at the end, as it goes off, like when we're going off right now? You still do that?
No.
Oh.
We don't do
no,
that.
like
Not anymore.
we wouldn't be recording this for an outtake.
Sometimes that was funnier than the show that I was listening to.
Walt's got his moonshine he's drinking right now. Oh my God.
I forgot the camera was on.
Just choked.
Okay. All right. I've turned the camera on. Okay. Hi. Hey, I'm here. Hey.
Walt just drank some moonshine from a freaking mason jar. That's like real.
That
I see that in movies. I don't see that in real life.
Wait a minute.
You
that looks like moonshine or.
well, he drank
It's
it.
apple
So
flavored.
Well.
It's not
Oh my
recycled.
gosh, it's gonna be like
it is not
Justified.
recycled.
Oh, you haven't watched Justified. Okay, get to watch Justified now when you start talking about apple flavor.
Oh, great. Oh, that's awesome.
Trust me, you'll love it. All right, everybody.
All right, see you guys.
I love both of you. Bye.